Yeah. Well, I will get started because it's 6:06, and with the 8 holidays, there's a lot to go through. So Kat and I split up the cards tonight, and I always like to give history of like the topic. And so the reason that we have the 8 holidays is that we have 4 that are solar events and then 4 that are seasonal events. So by solar, it's like whatever the sun is doing, we celebrate that. And then the season and the feeling of that for spring, summer, fall, and winter, we celebrate for that. Witches like to party. I don't know if you guys have heard that before, but we like to just figure out how to celebrate everything. So in general, were you about to say something? What?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The names of these holidays are all modern names that were put together by people who researched and looked into many, many civilizations, tribes, organizations that celebrated since 5,000 or 6,000 years ago, all the way till about the 1800s. That's when the Wheel of the Year was really first proposed. So everything that we have now sounds modern, which it is. But what we're celebrating and what we're trying to connect with is ancient. For all the festivals, I always put down magical workings or spells that you can do during the time frame, and so that I don't have to repeat it like 8 times. All of the festivals for magical workings would be any kind of journaling. That's always appropriate. That's appropriate in daily life. Always a time for reflection. Always a time for meditation, and always, always, always a time for divination. So as these transitions happen about every 6 to 7 weeks, that's where you have your goals that last that long, or your growth, and then you reflect on what you've done and try to move forward with a better path, find something else that would work. But those are things I'm not going to mention on the cards. I'm going to mention other stuff, but that applies to all of the holidays. And I probably already said this, but we're celebrating this because it's seasonal changes every 6 to 7 weeks. And the last note, for everything that you hear tonight, you could hear stuff that does not resonate with you at all, and that's okay. Don't write it down. Don't try to force yourself into something that doesn't feel right. What I say, the practice of witchcraft is about freedom and not applying rules to everything. So you put the importance where you feel it's right. Each change in our environment just gives us a chance to reflect, plan, and then grow. So that's the focus of all of this. The whole reason that we celebrate and take the time out to acknowledge it is so that we can reflect, we can plan something different or new, get our lives back on track, whatever it is, and then grow from that. So this is about building your practice and, communing with the earth cycles.
So the other thing about that, I think, is, a long time ago, before our modern day, way back, when people depended on the land, and the seasons were very important to them because it meant the harvest, and it meant they were planning for the winter. How are they going to survive the winter? So these holidays these holidays represented each those harvest times, or times of, where they needed to store food and things like that. And, in our modern day, we don't have to worry about that. We just go to the store and buy whatever we want. We can buy apples year round. We can buy berries year round if we want to pay the price, because they're coming from someone else. And we're not connected to the growing of the food and how it gets to our table. So for me, and I think it's a good thing as witches, especially because I think the essence of a witch is like a connection to nature. And so to remember these times of the year where in times past, people didn't have the availability of food that we do now. And so I think it's a really good thing to honor them and, somehow connect with that past experience of our ancestors that did have to, go out and work the field, go out and pick the fruit, go, store it for the winter.
Depend
and
on
things
the
like
land.
that. Depend on the land, the sun, the rain, the land. If they didn't have that, people died, they couldn't survive. So, and that's hard to imagine in today's world, but
that's what it connects to. Absolutely. So I know that Samhain just passed. So Samhain is Halloween, but it's still the season of Samhain up until maybe towards the end of November. So we are going to start on that holiday because everything that Kat's going to talk about is applicable for now. We are still in the Samhain season. So that's a good thing to remember. We do have holiday days. And that's because it would probably be hard for us to say, your holiday is between this date and this date. I mean, I guess it would be like being a Scorpio or a Pisces. You just have all that time to celebrate, but they've centered on astronomical events and seasons that we've decided on now in the way that our planet rotates. So although these holidays fall on specific days, which I did not write any of those dates down, I don't know if I should have, because I honestly don't celebrate them usually on the day because it'll fall on a Tuesday. I'm like, who the hell can have a party on a Tuesday? I need it. It's going to come a little bit before or a little bit after. So know that in celebrating these holidays, it's a flow between them. They gradually blend into each other, and you can celebrate them weeks before the actual day or weeks after the actual day.
So that takes the pressure off of, I got to do something on a particular day. I got to do spell work on a particular day. You have time.
You have time.
So the Samhain is the start of the winter season. It represents, Samhain is about the final harvest. We discard weaknesses. Not sure what that means. Darkness grows, as I just mentioned when we started this. It's 6:15, something like that, and it's dark here in Florida. Spirits bound. So this is a time of year when, especially around Samhain, the date of Samhain, where the veil is thin between our world and the spirit world. And this is the beginning and the ending of the wheel. The wheel ends and begins at this time of year, also at Samhain. This is a time when we connect with our ancestors and call upon them to connect with them, to help us. Everything kind of slows down. So just like in the old times when, people went indoors, everything slows down. I mean, even just our activity around our house. I'm not gardening in the evening. Nobody's doing anything. You're inside, you're making soups and chilies and things like that. And it's also a time for inward focus and spiritual inward thoughts, reflection, spiritual focus. Mm-hmm. So some of the key elements of this are introspection, ancestry, bereavement and death, other worlds, reincarnation, survival. So all of those kind of have a theme. You can see where they're like a dark theme.
And they're often experienced individually. So although this is the time of the year where we do start getting together indoors with our families, as Samhain is in full swing, we often do these things alone. Our introspection and reflection is sort of singular. So thought I'd add that. But so for spiritual focus, that was those. And then ideas for spell work. And you find your spells wherever you want. Make up your own spells. I do. I look at a spell and I'll take half of what I like from it, and the other I'll bring things in that are more like from my yard or things I already have. I don't force it. So for spell ideas, we have anything to do with wisdom. I'm going to let you read it. I was just waiting. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Wisdom, psychic abilities, release, preparation, and protection. Those are the types of spells that you would do specific to
during this time,
during this period of time.
And with preparation, it just means preparing for that year ahead. Samhain is really that. It's the last harvest. The fields are bare. So think about that in your life, your relationships, your house, your car, whatever it is that is like everything is done for the year with that. Now, what can I grow in the next season? It's also reflection, like if you know things that didn't go so well, how can you change that for the coming year? So Samhain is definitely that time when you put a new plan in place about your goals and dreams and desires for the coming year.
Yeah, think about planting the seeds for the next year, or thinking about planting them at least if you're not planting them, because like I said earlier, the way that it was in the old times where people didn't have a grocery store to go to. This is what, they were planning, like looking at their fields and going, what crops didn't do well? What do we need to do different next year? They couldn't do anything, but they were definitely thinking about it and starting to plan for it.
I officially, I've done this a couple times with her, but I officially, absolutely 100% cut off a longtime friend today. I was just really sick of her shit. And she proved to me today that it was the right thing to do anyways, because we've known each other 15 years almost, and she still screwed me over today. Like the last of like exchanging the final things. I'm like, this is just confirmation. Like, I don't need you in my life, like, or want you. It's not even need. It's like want, let the bad shit go. Just
we've both been cleaning out our houses, giving away stuff. This is a good time to start cleaning out, release, get rid of.
Let it die. Whatever needs to die, let it die.
Make room for the new.
Make room for the new.
Okay, so the next season or
holiday coming
up is going to be Yule.
Yes.
And this is the long night. It represents rebirth. So this is midwinter and the winter solstice.
Those are other names for it. She's reading cards I wrote, so if I have to like interject, I'm so sorry.
I am reading cards she wrote, not me. Winter begins, or the earth is at its furthest tilt away from the sun in the northern hemisphere.
So because of this, we have to think about like why this is happening. Why are we in the dark half of the year? So because the earth does spin, but it doesn't spin like straight up and down, we tilt back and forth, and that's what creates our seasons. Right now, for us up here in the northern hemisphere, we're on the tilt backwards, right? So we're the furthest from the sun, where the southern hemisphere is now getting all the sun. That's why they're celebrating. What are they celebrating? Midsummer at this time. They're celebrating the opposite holiday, where it's the longest day for them. So right now, the earth is in the lean back for us. So that's why we've got the longest night of the year. And then at the North Pole, of course, the sun doesn't rise for like 30 days. Hence that awesome vampire movie, 30 Days a Night. Just saying.
Spiritual focus, beginnings and endings, gratitude, sacrifice, search for meaning, purpose, and life path. And then spells and charms, generosity and abundance, mothers, and introspection.
Yeah. So this is on the back of the cards. I wrote notes in case anybody was wondering about how the god or goddess plays into some of this, because
I didn't get that.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not that it's super important. It's just it's a story, right? Like we have these stories about what the earth is going through, and we deem her the Mother Earth. She's the goddess, and the sun is the god, and like sort of their relationship of the give and take back and forth. Where I don't know what I was going to say now.
You were going to talk about the associated goddesses.
Oh, because it said mother. All right. So this is when the Mother Earth has now gone below where the sun god has died, in the story. And if you guys want to look into it, it's in many, many different cultures, but I leave it general. I don't use many names with it. It's just like sun god and Mother Earth. But she's now gone to the underworld, and she's with him while he's getting ready to impregnate her. So
it's a cycle. She is Mother Earth?
It's Mother Earth, yeah. So Mother Earth is at her dormant side, and the sun god is now down. So they're both sort of in the underworld together. It's the best way to explain it without getting into actual mythology. That's it. Okay. So that finishes up our 2021 year, and our next holiday coming up. So I know the dates, but Yule, you guys, if you don't have a book that says it, or I can post it after this meetup. But Yule is usually December 21st or 22nd. That's when Yule is. And then Imbolc is the next holiday, and that's coming on February 1st. February 1st, February 2nd. It just depends on, well, again, you can celebrate this a week before, a week after, or whatever. But some people think it's February 2nd versus February 1st. So both dates are right. And Groundhog's Day. That's your sign to know Imbolc is coming. This is the great thaw. So as we've gone through the long nights of winter, because the winter solstice being that longest night, our days are starting to grow, and we're getting a little more sun back every single day, like a minute a day we're getting back. The Imbolc season represents the thaw, and the very first flowers that can bloom when there's still snow on the ground, like the snowy dewdrop and some of the tulips and stuff, they can actually push through. The earth is warming up, like she's getting enough sun back that she can actually bring life forward. This is also the time when the goats and ewes, such a weird word to say, the sheep, they have now given birth. And so milk is a really important part of this holiday. Candles and milk. We're bringing back the light, and we are honoring the first animals birthing, it's the goats and the sheep that are able to bring forth the first birth. And for us, for humans, that meant we had a new food source. It wasn't just the stuff we stored over winter. that was getting scarce. Now we have milk, we can make cheese, all that yummy stuff. This is also known as Candlemas or Candlemas. The Christians brought that in as a way to bring two holidays together. And this is, again, just about bringing the light in of like your spirit or your soul. Mardi Gras can fall from this day all the way into March, just depending on something to do with the way that they make their calendar. They never wanted our holidays of Ostara, which is our Easter, to fall on the same day as their actual Easter. So that's why it moves, and that's why Mardi Gras moves. But it's the same celebration of like, holy crap, we can breathe again. We know the sun is coming back. We will live. We're going to make it. So that's the celebration. The feeling and the focus during this time is like new plans and new ideas, cleansing, any kind of broom craft. So if you like brooms and the cleaning with brooms, this is like the broom season where you dust down everything with a broom. Any kind of seeds that you were storing, you would plant your first seeds indoors at this time. Actually making your own candles, doing any kind of protection or purification, because we've been inside a lot. That stagnant old air, old relationships, or stuff you've just realized after being close with it for a while, you don't really like anymore. This is another like, clear it out. This is the beginning of spring cleaning. And then awakening your own gifts, because this is still in our reflective time or our like introspection. This is where you can do spells that bring forth your own gifts, sitting with your cards every day for divination, doing fire scrying, water scrying. And then for spells, I just put down candle blessings. This is like, if you follow social media of any kind, when February comes around, that's all people post about is candle blessings and making your own candles, because that's the big, big candle holiday. Any kind of goddess work also, because this is the time when people who were having sex and pairing up at Beltane or Midsummer, they're having babies in the month of February. So this is goddess work, mother work, well, maiden work, technically. So that is in February. And guess what? 6 weeks later, we're going to have the spring equinox. So equinox means equal day and night. And when we have an equal day and night time, often people put a white candle and a black candle on their altar to signify the equal light and the equal dark. It's not negative or positive. It's just balancing out the energies. The sun is directly, well, the sun doesn't move, we move, but the earth is now in a stance of it's upright where the equator and the sun are like directly lined up. So that's why we have equal day and night. Obviously, the closer you get to the equator, the better it is. People up north, like in Boston, still experience a longer night. So if you live somewhere, you can actually check and see what is your actual day that is equal day and night. And if you want to celebrate on that actual day, you can, because we have days that do reach exact equal day and night, and it's not the same for everybody. So this holiday falls March 20th through 22nd. And the spiritual focus that we do during this time is going to be about new beginnings and growth. So relationships, jobs, opportunities, gardens. This is a renewal or a rededication. So if you want to start something spiritually for yourself, like a brand new journal, or you want to get into something new for your path, this is a good time to do that. Rejuvenation. So if you're doing any health stuff, rejuvenation is really big during this time. The energy of the earth coming back alive is really, it's spring. It's like everything's blooming and babies are being born everywhere. And it's like people are starting to be happy again because they're not sitting in darkness most of the year. And then spells during this time, we're getting into like the sex and romantic and love holidays. So it would be anything about relationships that are romantic. Not necessarily family. Family's for the fall, but if you want to do romantic or sex magic and fertility with prosperity. So fertility and prosperity do always go together. So it's a perfect time to do those spells as well. Okay. Then after this, 6 weeks later, we're going to get to Beltane, also known as May Day. So you have the maypole. That's all part of this Beltane holiday. You'll see a lot of cows represented in this. It is the time of Taurus. But this, like, if I had a quote, I make my own quotes for holidays. This is the put yourself out there holiday. You have the energy and the confidence of the bull guiding you in the stars. And this is like, summer has already hit. Everybody's already outside. And it's like, all right, you're warming up. You're getting in your, shorter sleeved clothes, your shorter shorts. And it's like, this is the time when relationships start to happen. Beltane is the holiday when the babies are born in Imbolc. So I was born in February, y'all. So that means my mom was getting busy on Beltane the year before I was born. Just saying.
Mom and dad.
Oh yeah, mom and dad. There were two of them.
And it's true.
Yeah, February. I mean May.
Yes, I remember.
So this is the time when summer actually begins. And the days are longer now, and the earth is warmer, and our spiritual focus is about the abundance, because that's what you're seeing bloom and come forth everywhere. And this is a big focus on health. So remember that in mating or relationship rituals, down to our core, we are always looking for the person that could take care of us should stuff go wrong or whatever. But so this is a good time to focus on your health if you really want to, or look for health in others. This is a holiday about unions and psychic abilities. The psychic abilities comes in because there's so much energy abound that you can sit and feel more, like the earth is vibrating with energy. So psychic abilities is a good thing to work on during Beltane. For spells, this is a sacred fire holiday. This is where you hear people about fire jumping or holding hands and going through fire together. This is the holiday for that. So if you wanted to build a sacred fire, that's good. Giving offerings to whoever you like to give offerings to, and building altars is another part of this. Fairy work starts now and goes through for the next 2 months. And then protection of earth and animals. So this is definitely when the maiden is coming forward and is more protective over the earth and the animals in it than of the human part of it. Humans are looking after each other, and the earth goddess is trying to look after all of the things that she brought forth. That is Beltane. There's not a ton, maybe I'm biased, but there's not a ton of like really good god representations throughout the craft. But this is the time where if you really like the green man or the horned god, this is the time to bring in elements of them or make offerings to them for your mate, is during the Beltane season. So that is May 1st-ish. And then finally, my absolute favoriteest holiday, and the one that I got married on, is Litha, which is also known as Midsummer. And if you've seen the movie A Midsummer's Night Dream, it adds in elements of the pagan holidays of okay, so the funny story is that people really used to get together as a party, and then everybody would set off into the woods, male and female alike, that were not paired up yet, and you would just randomly run into people and have sex with them. And should you have a child from this union, they would think that it was a fairy. So really crazy like lore around Midsummer. You should definitely look into it. It's a lot of fun. But people would go out at night, so you didn't really know who you might choose. And it was more about how you felt when you were with somebody rather than like physically assessing them and, what family did they come from or whatever. It was like, how were you guys able to communicate when there was darkness? So that was a night ritual for Midsummer. This is the solstice. And I don't know if I already said this, but solstice means that the sun stands still. So when it's the longest night, the sun is standing still very low. And when it's the longest day, which is Litha, June 21st and 22nd, the sun is standing still overhead. Like it seems to be at the noon position for a couple hours. That's what it feels like. So on this June 21st, 22nd timeframe, if you guys stay outside and you could watch a sundial, it actually pauses for a while in the same position. It's pretty cool. So the earth is at now, for us in the Northern Hemisphere, the earth is at its closest tilt to the sun, and that's why we're getting that longest day of the year. This is the solar energy apex. So if you are really connected with the sun versus the moon, this would be your day to do anything and everything you wanted to do. Nature itself is at the highest power because after this day, the days start getting shorter. Like you have the best party ever, and then you realize you have to go home. And then, night sets in. I love this day, and it's also sad because it marks the beginning of the dark season. But the maiden is now pregnant, of course, from Beltane and all the rituals. And so the sun god will start to wane. He has served his purpose. He's impregnated Mother Earth, and now he slowly starts to wander around alone and die off. I don't know what he does, but he doesn't leave her. That sounds bad, like bad father issues, but he just is not the focus anymore. The earth is fertile and she's doing what she does. Okay, so for spiritual focus during this time, I don't do a ton of spells during the summer season, only because I don't really want any more kids. I'm already married. If anything, I do fairy work. This is a big fairy energy time, but healing and growth. So that's big. And then power and success, because we're at the height of the season for growth, sharing anything that you've grown is equal to success. That's what makes you more successful. As we give away, we receive more. And then of course, motherhood, children, fertility. Lastly, for spells, this is about illumination within ourselves and the world around us. Because it is the longest day, cherishing that night is actually really important, because you only get so long to do a reflection when you're at the height of all your power. So the spell work would still include fertility, health, and love, because it's just the season for sex during that time. Beltane and Midsummer. And I am going to turn the other two holidays over to Kat. And we're doing pretty good. It's only 6:33. I feel very proud of us.
Very good. Okay, so our next holiday is Lughnasadh. And it's the summer harvest. Also, Lammas is that right?
Yeah, Lammas.
Right? Lammas. Okay. So it's the first harvest. And this is about outdoor games, feasting season, and the grain. So grain harvest. So bread making. So this is when the first grain crops, wheat
corn, barley
has come, is ready for harvesting. Spiritual focus, gratitude, blessings, introspection, and reflection. Reflection shifts.
You guys, I love this. So I didn't write down just reflections. I tried to combine relationships and reflection. And
reflection shifts.
Reflection shifts.
Reflection shifts.
That's
this is a new word. This is it. Yes, we're gonna honor life and death sacrifices. Honor life and death and sacrifices. Okay.
Yeah. So if we think about what's happening in the field, you are taking down your first thing that you gave life to. So those seeds that we started in Imbolc, you're now slashing them down, taking the life of that to give life to something else. So that's why it's honoring the life and death cycles, and then the sacrifices we make to do that. And then for spells,
we have prosperity and abundance, protection, and making offerings at this time because of where we are, because we're taking from the earth. And ancestors, honoring our ancestors.
Yes. So there are 3 harvest holidays, just like there were the 2 like love and relationship, sex holidays. Now we're into the harvest holidays, where it's like you're benefiting from the fruits of your labor. And I don't know where I was going to go with that.
Making offerings.
The making the offerings. This again, if there's any deities that you like or that you follow or that you are asking for help, this is the time when offerings really go a long way. At Midsummer, I didn't mention, but if you're ever going to work with fairies, offering is a must, and don't ever tell them thank you. You can research that more, but they like to cause mischief. And
I always thought fairies were good, but actually they're kind of troublemakers.
They're what you give them, because you have like land spirits and stuff too. But yeah, the whole fairy and the honoring them and giving them stuff and not saying thank you. But
okay, so at summer harvest, what's about that date for that one?
That's August 1st.
Okay, and then we come to Mabon, which is the autumn equinox.
Yes,
and we have equal light and dark at Mabon. It's our second harvest. The days are growing shorter. We're all noticing that. It's time for sacrifices, tributes to the dying sun god.
And the fertile fields.
And the fertile earth fields. Spiritual focus is about accomplishments, balance, goals, healing, sharing success.
So through all the harvest holidays, you guys, the best thing that you can do is give food away, whether it's drives, whether you make food and bring it to people, but that is how you show you've been successful. And that's what's repaid to you if you believe in the threefold. But as we do that for others, we will be taken care of later also. And then with the tributes to the dying sun god and the fertile earth fields, she's getting ready to lose the father of the child, or what, I don't see. It sounds weird to say that because it's not really like an actual person. So the way to think of that is, as the sun god is now dying and diminishing, she is taking over to be the strength for people on earth. She is the one that we focus on giving thanks to and giving offerings to, because she's still supplying while the sun god is like dwindling and running and hiding somewhere. That sounds bad, but I just don't know how else to say it. I don't think of the sun god that often. Sorry. I'm a female and I talk to goddess. And it's nothing personal. It's just who I feel connected to.
And then for spells, we have community and family harmony and grounding and safety for our spells for Mabon.
Yeah.
And then we're back to Samhain 6 weeks after that.
Yeah.
And that's our
Samhain.
wheel of the year.
That is all 8 holidays.
So I think, for me, listening to this and all of the things that we are celebrating for this time of year, you can probably recognize that so much of this we in our modern lives is really hard to connect with, which is why we need to find a way to tie together our modern life with and be thankful for, like, sharing food, cleaning out your pantry, donating food at these harvest times, because that's our way to it's a way to give thanks for the abundance that we have today.
It's available to us.
Yeah. I mean, we have so much that our ancestors didn't. And so I just feel like that's, it's really an important part for me anyway, of being a witch, is to remember that and have that gratitude for the food on the table, and then the abundance that I have, and to try to share that with other people. So that wraps up our year of the
wheel of the year.
The wheel of the year.
The year of the wheel.
The year of the wheel. Okay. All right.
And then there's one card I didn't read yet, in case you guys are curious. I am a super nerd when it comes to words and understanding where our language comes from. And the word Sabbath, like you'll see on the Llewellyn books, I brought all of them. I could take a picture, but on the Llewellyn books, it always says Sabbath up here. And that word rubs me wrong, if that's the right way to say it, just because that's a religious term. That's where it comes from. Almost every ancient civilization all the way through today has a variation of the word Sabbath, and its meaning was to be a day of rest or breaking or a holiday. So you won't find me say Sabbath really ever, unless I'm trying to teach somebody about the word. If you feel connected to that word, use it, but festival, holiday, celebration, day of honor, make your vocabulary your own. We don't have to use what's written. It should feel comfortable when you say it. Like me saying Sabbath feels uncomfortable. So I always say holiday. It's an American word that I've used all my life, and I'm very comfortable saying it. And when I say it, it's not like people don't know what I mean. They do. But it's just more true to me, who I am. I know other people who only use that word and consider it like, I don't know how to say that, but like law. And if I wanted to have laws over my practice, I would be religious, and I'm not. So that's just where I come from. The word Sabbath for witches started in about the 1600s, and the actual definition for it is crazy. So another reason I don't use it, it is assembly of witches, devils, and sorcerers for the celebrations of rites and orgies.
Yeah, 1652. So what was happening about that time? Yeah. Uh-huh. We can understand where that thinking came from, and how the world was ruled by men who wanted to control women. Sorry, guys, if you're on there. I'm not, no slam on you, but yeah.
it was just a form of control. But, and then also, if you see anything with the word, with the beginning of neo, N-E-O, neo anything, neo is just another word for new. So if you see stuff like, am I a neo-pagan? Pagan just means from the old country. It's not slander. It just means like of the old ways. And now that we're neo means we're in the new world living the old ways. So I don't say neo-pagan either. I just say pagan or witch, but It's good to know as you're figuring out your path and sort of what you want to practice. Having labels at first is really helpful so that you can at least understand when you're talking to other new people. Yeah, that was it. I had this nerd card of, what do words mean? I thought I might tell you. I am very nerdy when it comes to that. Okay, I do see 91 in the chat. So we're going to go ahead and stop the recording. So this will be on the YouTube channel later tonight. If you missed it or want to share it or watch it, stop. Yeah.